When Kesa saw the family van drive off without her, she stood barefoot at the gate with her suitcase, smiling through tears. They had forgotten her birthday, again, but this time, she wasn't going to beg to belong. Not anymore. Kesa was the kind of woman who never complained. She helped everyone, stayed quiet when hurt, and always tried to make her family happy. But no matter what she did, she always felt like the extra one, the one people remembered last, or not at all. Her younger sister, Ruba, was the star. Loud, stylish, always at the center. Everyone loved Ruba's jokes, her selfies, her stories. Kesa? She was just there. It was Kesa's birthday, but the house was quiet. No calls, no messages, no cake, just silence. She didn't expect much, but deep inside, it still stung. She opened her salon, hoping work would distract her. That afternoon, she saw the family van drive past. Her parents, siblings, cousins, even Ruba was in the front seat, waving excitedly on social media. They were going on a luxury family trip. Kesa blinked, confused. She had heard them planning this for months. She thought she was part of it, but her phone didn't ring. Her name wasn't on the list. No one mentioned her. No one asked. Later that day, a distant cousin sent her a picture from the van. "Wish you were here," it read. Kesa stared at the screen, heart heavy, but face calm. They had taken her off the trip and added Ruba in her place, and not one person even noticed she was missing. She smiled sadly, placed her phone on silent, and began to close her salon early. Without telling anyone, Kesa packed a small bag, locked her door, and walked to the bus station. No tears, no drama. She didn't even leave a note. People would assume she was home, quiet as always. But this time, she wasn't going to sit at the edge, waiting to be seen. She was done begging for space in people's lives. She didn't know where the bus was going, but she knew one thing for sure. She was never coming back the same. Not after today. The bus station was loud, dusty, and filled with people going somewhere fast. Kesa sat on a bench with her small bag beside her, quietly watching the world rush past. She had no clear plan, no hotel booked, no destination in mind, but somehow she felt more free than she had in years. As she waited, a tired-looking old woman walked past, holding a crumpled map and looking confused. She paused near Kesa, then asked for directions in broken English. Kesa stood up immediately, offering help with a gentle smile. The woman kept pointing at the map, trying to explain, but no one around seemed to understand her. Then, without thinking, Kesa switched to French. Fluently, confidently. The woman's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, you speak French?" she asked, relieved. Kesa nodded and helped her locate the address she was looking for. It turned out the woman had missed her pickup for a business retreat and was now stranded, unsure how to reach the place. Kesa didn't hesitate. She walked with the woman to a nearby taxi stand and helped her get a ride, even giving directions to the driver in French. The woman kept smiling, watching Kesa closely as they talked. She asked what Kesa did for a living, and Kesa shyly mentioned her small beauty salon. Nothing fancy, just something to get by. The woman chuckled and said, "You helped me when you had no idea who I was. That says a lot about you." Before stepping into the car, the woman turned and asked, "Would you like to come with me?" Kesa blinked, unsure she heard right. "Come with me to the retreat. It's a work trip, but very relaxed. Good people, beautiful resort. I'm one of the co-owners, and I could use someone like you there." At first, Kesa hesitated. She wasn't dressed for a resort. She didn't have fancy clothes, or even a proper suitcase. But the woman insisted. "Kind people like you are rare. Don't say no because of fear." So Kesa said yes. As they drove away together, the city lights fading behind them, Kesa looked out the window and smiled for the first time that day. She didn't know what waited for her at the end of that road, but for once, someone had seen her, really seen her, not for who she was supposed to be, but for who she truly was, and that changed everything. Ruba was glowing in every photo. She filled her social media with selfies, by the pool, at the breakfast buffet, with their parents, laughing like everything was perfect. In one post she wrote, "Family trips are better when everyone deserves to be there." No names, no direct words. But Kesa knew that caption was for her. It wasn't the first time Ruba had mocked her. It was her way of reminding Kesa who the family loved more, who always got the spotlight. Kesa saw the pictures quietly from her hotel room. She didn't react. No comments, no likes, no replies. She simply placed the phone face down and looked around at where she was. A beautiful, calm resort, nestled between green hills and fresh air. The people there were different. They didn't ask about her family or what brand she wore. They simply talked to her like she mattered. During a welcome dinner, Kesa sat at a round table with a few kind strangers. One was a retired judge. Another ran a successful foundation for women's education. Beside her was a quiet man in a simple white shirt who introduced himself with just his first name. Kesa didn't know then that he was the same billionaire Ruba had been trying to meet for years, a man known for never giving interviews or showing up in the press. But here he was, laughing gently at Kesa's story about a client who once fell asleep during a facial treatment. What surprised everyone was how naturally Kesa fit in. She didn't try to impress anyone. She just listened, asked thoughtful questions, and shared small parts of her life, her kindness, the way she paid attention, how she remembered people's names. It didn't go unnoticed. The media mogul sitting across from her leaned in and said, "You have the kind of presence that makes people feel safe. That's rare." Every time Ruba posted another filtered photo, trying to show the world she was living her best life, Kesa was quietly building connections that would shape her future. She wasn't wearing expensive makeup or showing off her clothes. She was just being herself, calm, honest, and graceful. People started inviting her to sit next to them, asking her thoughts, including her in conversations she never imagined being a part of. And Kesa realized something. All her life, she thought she was invisible, but maybe she had just been looking in the wrong direction. While Ruba chased attention, Kesa was earning respect, not loudly, not publicly, but deeply. And for the first time, Kesa didn't feel like the forgotten sister anymore. She felt like the right one, in the right place, with the right people. The resort was hosting a big charity dinner one evening. It was meant to raise support for women in need, and many guests were important people from different parts of the country. The staff was busy, rushing to get everything ready. Kesa noticed that one of the younger workers looked stressed, trying to arrange the flower centerpieces while answering phone calls. Without being asked, Kesa stepped in. She softly offered to help, and with her calm voice and steady hands, she began setting up the tables, arranging chairs, and even helping with the menu cards. She didn't try to lead, she just helped where help was needed. But soon, people began asking her what to do, and somehow, she became the one everyone looked to for guidance. She didn't shout or give orders. She smiled, encouraged, and gently fixed things when they went wrong. One staff member accidentally spilled water on a guest list, and while others panicked, Kesa simply rewrote the names from memory because she had quietly listened to who was coming during earlier conversations. The hotel manager had been watching her from a distance. He was impressed, not just by how she worked, but by how people responded to her. No tension, no complaints, just calm, quiet leadership. Later that evening, he walked over and thanked her personally. "You have a gift," he told her, "not just for beauty, but for people." At the dinner, Kesa was seated next to a middle-aged woman in a dark blue dress. The woman asked what Kesa did, and Kesa spoke softly about her small salon back home, how she often gave free treatments to elderly women, and how she dreamed of starting a mobile beauty service, something that would bring dignity, peace, and healing to widows and women who had lost everything. The woman listened closely, her eyes never leaving Kesa's face. At the end of the night, the woman slipped her a card and said, "I'm not just here for dinner. I'm one of the silent investors behind this event, and I want to help you." Kesa held the card in her hand, stunned. She had come here with nothing, no plan, no contacts, just a hurting heart. And now, someone believed in her dream enough to support it. Not because she begged or tried to impress anyone, but because she simply showed who she was. That night, as she lay in bed, Kesa looked out the window and smiled. She had always been called just a salon girl, but now, she was something more. Quietly, slowly, she was becoming a sponsor, a leader, a builder of something bigger than herself. The next morning, Kesa was invited to a private planning meeting with the organizers of the charity. It was a simple room with a round table, tea, and a whiteboard filled with ideas. She sat quietly, listening as the team discussed future projects, upcoming events, and the hotels they planned to work with for future retreats. Then, one of the organizers mentioned a popular hotel chain that recently joined the partnership. Kesa's ears perked up when she heard the name. It was the same hotel her family had gone to for their luxury trip. At first, she thought she had heard wrong. But when they shared the list of locations under the chain, her heart skipped a beat. Yes, that was it. That was where her family was staying, the place they had gone without her, the one where Ruba posted all those happy pictures with their parents. It was strange, almost like fate was giving her a sign. She didn't say anything. She didn't ask questions. She just sat there, quietly connecting the dots. This hotel was now part of a network co-owned by the same investor who had just offered to support her dream. The woman who believed in her, the one who had given her a chance without asking for anything in return. Later that day, Kaisa asked one of the assistants for a moment alone. She requested to make a payment through the hotel's system. It wasn't much, just enough to cover a few suites and a weekend stay. She didn't say who it was for. She simply pulled out her card, filled the form, and when asked for a name to place on the reservation, she didn't write Kaisa. Instead, for the first time in years, she wrote her full name, Kisandu Oluoma. That name carried memories. Her mother only used it when she was upset. Her father often forgot it. Her siblings teased her with it, calling it too long, too local. But here, in this new world where she was finally seen and valued, she felt proud to use it. That name was hers. Strong, full, beautiful. After the payment went through, she said thank you, smiled, and left the room as quietly as she had entered. No one knew what she was planning. No one knew who the suites were for. She didn't tell anyone about the connection. She didn't act out of revenge. She just knew that sometimes silence speaks louder than anything else. And in that moment, with just one payment and a signature, Kaisa began to rewrite her story. Not loudly, but deeply, with grace and quiet power. It was the 4th day of the trip, and everything had been going perfectly for Ruba and the family. They had taken hundreds of photos, shared videos online, laughed at dinners, and relaxed by the pool. Ruba enjoyed all the attention from her followers, especially when she posted captions that made fun of Kaisa without saying her name. To her, this trip was a reward, and she felt like she was finally being seen as the better daughter. That morning, they returned from a beach outing, tired but happy. As they walked through the grand hotel doors, the staff at the front desk smiled politely, but something felt different. The usual cheerful greetings were missing. A young man in a suit stepped forward and asked, "Excuse me, could you please wait in the lobby for a moment?" Ruba frowned. "Wait, why?" The man remained calm. "There's been an update with your booking. We just need to confirm something. Kindly have a seat, please." Their parents looked at each other, confused. "What kind of update?" Ruba asked again, her voice sharper now. "We've been staying here for days." "I understand, ma'am," the staff replied gently, "but the reservation under which your rooms were booked now requires the main guest to be present before we proceed." Ruba's heart began to race. "Main guest? I booked nothing. My dad didn't either. Who even made the reservation?" Guests in the lobby were now watching. Some recognized Ruba from her online posts. Others simply stared at the family, now standing awkwardly beside their bags, not knowing what was going on. Their mother tried to explain. "There must be some mistake. We've been staying here since Monday. These are our rooms." The hotel manager arrived, calm and professional. He nodded politely and said, "There's no mistake. We kindly ask for your patience. The primary guest, the one who paid for this entire booking, will be arriving shortly. Once they check in, we can proceed." The family was stunned. Who was the main guest? What was happening? Why were they suddenly being treated like strangers? Ruba checked her phone. No calls, no messages. Nothing made sense. She could feel the heat rising in her face as the whispers in the lobby grew louder. People were staring, some even recording. She sat down slowly, pretending to be calm, but inside, her thoughts were racing. What kind of mess was this? And why did it feel like something, or someone, was behind it? They had no choice but to wait. Sitting there, surrounded by confusion and silence, the family began to feel something they had never felt before in this hotel. Small, powerless, and unseen. And they had no idea who was about to walk through those doors. The lobby was quiet, but heavy with whispers. Ruba sat with her arms crossed, pretending not to care, but her eyes kept darting toward the entrance. Their father paced back and forth, while their mother kept adjusting her scarf nervously. The younger cousins had stopped talking altogether. Everyone felt it. Something was coming, but no one could explain what. Then the glass doors at the front slowly opened. Kaiser walked in. She wasn't wearing anything flashy, just a soft cream dress, clean and elegant. Her hair was tied back neatly, and her steps were calm, steady. She didn't smile, didn't look around for attention. She simply entered like she belonged there, because she did. The hotel manager, who had been waiting near the front desk, immediately stepped forward. His tone changed. His body language shifted. He gave a slight bow, respectful and professional. "Welcome, Miss Oluwoma," he said clearly. "Your guests are waiting. Your full reservation is under your name." Gasps echoed in the lobby. Ruba froze. Their father turned sharply. Their mother blinked, not believing what she just heard. Kaiser? Ms. Oluwoma? The same Kaiser they had left behind. The same Kaiser they didn't invite. The same one they ignored on her birthday. No one spoke. For a moment, even the air seemed still. Kaiser looked around the room, her eyes meeting each face, calm, not angry, quiet, not proud, just present. And that presence shook them more than any loud outburst ever could. Ruba's mouth opened, then closed again. She couldn't find words. Her face turned pale. All the posts, all the captions, all the laughs now felt like sharp pins in her own skin. Kaiser nodded politely at the manager and walked past her stunned family. Not once did she rush. Not once did she lower her head. This was not revenge. This was not about showing off. This was clarity. This was power in its quietest form. Guests in the lobby who had been watching now looked at Kaiser with admiration. Some even whispered, asking who she was. But Kaiser didn't hear them. She had already moved on, not just physically, but emotionally. She had stepped into a place they never thought she could reach. And the ones who once forgot her now sat in silence, realizing what they had done. Kaiser didn't say a single word to them. She didn't have to, because in that moment, her presence said it all. That evening, the resort dining hall was beautifully set. Warm lights, soft music, and a calm atmosphere filled the room. Tables were neatly arranged, and name cards rested beside each plate. It was a formal dinner, but not too stiff. Guests arrived in quiet admiration, many of them already familiar with Kaiser's grace. She moved through the room politely, greeting everyone with a gentle smile. At the center table sat her family, still in shock from what had happened earlier. Ruba looked uneasy. Their mother tried to act normal, but her eyes kept avoiding Kaiser's. The father sat quietly, unsure of what to expect. No one had answers. No one had questions. They were simply there. As everyone settled, the hotel manager took the mic for a short welcome, then invited Kaiser to the front. She walked slowly but confidently. She didn't wear anything expensive, yet she looked like someone with purpose. Someone who knew exactly who she was. Kaiser stood before the crowd and smiled softly. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began. "I wanted to use this moment to share something close to my heart." She paused for a breath, looking briefly at her family before continuing. "For years, I ran a small salon back home. I met many women there, women who had lost husbands, homes, hope. Many came not for makeup or hair, but just for someone to listen. That's when I had the idea to create something that brings beauty, care, and healing to women who cannot come to us. So today, I'm proud to announce the start of my mobile beauty care project, a simple service that brings peace and dignity to women who need it the most." The room clapped warmly. A few guests stood to applaud. Then Kaiser added, "I would also like to thank my family. I had invited a few of them here to speak tonight. If anyone would like to share something, the floor is open." She waited. Silence. No one stood. No one spoke. Ruba looked down. Their mother shifted in her seat. Their father stared at the table. Kaiser nodded gently. "That's okay," she said. "Your silence has taught me more than your words ever could." She smiled, not bitterly, but with peace. "Thank you for freeing me, for showing me that I don't have to keep waiting to be accepted or noticed. Because in that quiet space where your words used to live, I found my own." The room went completely still. Then someone clapped, then another, and soon the hall echoed with applause, not just for her project, but for her truth. Kaiser stepped down and returned to her seat, calm as ever. She had not come for revenge. She had come to rise. And she did. After the dinner ended and guests began to leave, the air felt quiet and heavy. Kaiser returned to her room peacefully, ready to rest. But late that night, there was a soft knock on her door. She opened it to see Ruba standing there. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged. She had been crying. Without saying a word, Ruba walked in and sat on the edge of the bed. She didn't wear her usual bold smile. She looked small, like a little girl who had finally run out of pride. For a moment, the room was silent. Then, with a shaky voice, she spoke. "I never hated you, Kesa," she whispered. I didn't understand how you could always stay so calm, even when people ignored you, even when I was mean. You didn't fight, you didn't try to prove anything, and still, somehow you won." Kesa sat down beside her, listening quietly. She didn't interrupt. Ruba kept talking. "People always clapped for me, liked my posts, praised my clothes. But tonight, they clapped for you. And it wasn't just because of what you built. It was because of who you are. And I never saw that before. I was too busy laughing at you to realize you were becoming someone strong." Her voice cracked, and tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Kesa. Truly." Kesa reached for a tissue and handed it to her sister. She didn't say much, just nodded gently, letting the moment breathe. There was no anger in her eyes, only a deep understanding. Some wounds didn't need more words. Time would do the rest. Ruba left a few minutes later, still wiping her tears. That night, she didn't sleep much. The next morning, breakfast was served in their suite. As Ruba walked to the table, she saw a small folded paper placed beside her teacup. It was Kesa's handwriting, neat and clear. She picked it up slowly and opened it. The letter read, "You don't need to clap for me now. I just wanted you to stop laughing at me." Ruba held the paper tightly in her hand. Her throat tightened. That one sentence hit harder than any long speech ever could. It was simple, honest, and full of quiet pain. She sat down, but couldn't eat. That morning, she realized Kesa never wanted applause or attention. She only wanted respect, to be seen, not mocked. And now that she had it, she didn't ask for more. She had already moved on. Ruba wiped another tear and whispered to herself, "I should have never laughed at her." Months passed, and Kesa's life bloomed in ways no one had imagined. The little idea she once held quietly in her heart, to bring beauty and healing to women who couldn't afford it, turned into something much bigger. Her mobile beauty therapy trucks, once laughed at by some, were now rolling through cities, towns, and even small villages. Inside those trucks, women felt seen, heard, and cared for. They weren't just getting their hair or nails done, they were being reminded of their worth. One day, someone recorded a short video of Kesa comforting a young girl during a therapy session. That video went viral. People from all over Africa began to share it, comment on it, and cheer for her. News outlets wanted to know her story. And soon, Kesa's face was on the covers of women's magazines. Headlines read, "The girl they ignored is now changing lives." She didn't have to shout or show off. Her work spoke for her. She had created her own table, not to eat alone, but to invite others in. She didn't ask for seats at fancy dinners anymore. She gave seats to those who were often forgotten. She opened doors that were once closed to her, and behind those doors, she built rooms filled with kindness, strength, and purpose. One evening, Ruba sat alone at home, scrolling through channels. She stopped when she saw a familiar face on TV, Kesa, sitting on a stage, being interviewed by a popular host. The studio audience clapped loudly as Kesa spoke with calm confidence, sharing how her pain turned into power, and how being laughed at only taught her to listen deeper, to herself and to others. Ruba's eyes filled with tears again. She leaned forward, watching closely. Her sister looked beautiful, not because of makeup or clothes, but because of the light she carried now, a light no one could dim. Ruba whispered softly, almost as if the TV could hear her, "I should have never laughed." It wasn't just regret in her, it was a quiet respect, a lesson learned. She finally understood that Kesa didn't rise by competing. She rose by creating. She didn't fight for a seat at anyone's table. She built her own. And now, so many were gathering around it, and somewhere, far from the noise and applause, Kesa continued her work, humbly, joyfully, knowing that she didn't need to be accepted by everyone, because she had already accepted herself. If this story moved you, don't just scroll. Share it with someone who's ever been laughed at, overlooked, or underestimated. Tag that one person who needs to hear, "You don't need their table. Build your own." Drop a heart in the comments if you believe quiet people have the loudest comebacks. And remember, the world may not clap at first, but one day they'll wish they had.